Have you ever wondered why some people treat you as if you're invisible? They talk over you, interrupt mid-sentence, or glance right through you like your background noise. Maybe it happens at work, when you're trying to share an idea and someone louder takes credit. Maybe it happens with friends who only call when they need something, or in a family where your needs always seem to come last. You tell yourself, they're just rude or that's how people are. But what if the truth cuts deeper? What if the way others treat you is actually a mirror of how you treat yourself? We don't like to hear that. It sounds unfair. After all, you're the one who tries to be kind, patient, understanding. You show up, you help, you forgive, you keep peace. But over time, you notice something: the more accommodating you are, the less people seem to respect you. It's not because kindness is wrong, it's because without boundaries, kindness turns into invisibility. People don't see what you give, they see what you allow. Every time you stay silent when someone crosses a line, you send a message, not with words but with energy: this is acceptable. And once that message is received, it gets repeated. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The disrespect you keep encountering isn't random fate, it's feedback. Life mirrors your inner stance. When you walk into a room already apologizing for existing, the world hears the apology louder than your words. When you dim your light to keep others comfortable, they don't think, "Wow, such humility." They think, "That's someone who won't challenge me." The world rarely gives you what you deserve. It gives you what you demand, and more importantly, what you believe you deserve. Think about how early this pattern starts. Maybe as a kid, you learned that being good meant being quiet. You didn't talk back, you didn't upset anyone, you earned love through compliance. That pattern worked back then, it kept you safe, accepted. But now, as an adult, it betrays you. You're still operating under the same contract: if I'm nice enough, if I never complain, people will love me. Yet deep down you already know, they won't. Because love and respect aren't earned through self-erasure. They're built through self-presence. The truth is, people read you long before you speak. Your tone, your posture, your hesitation, all of it communicates your internal hierarchy. When you put yourself at the bottom, they believe you. When you hesitate to take up space, they fill it. It's not cruelty, it's human nature. We all calibrate how to treat others based on what they tolerate. If you've ever watched a group dynamic, you can see it happen. One person interrupts, another laughs nervously instead of pushing back. From then on, the pattern is set. Not because the loud person is powerful, but because the quiet one surrendered their power. The first step to changing this isn't about blaming anyone, not even yourself. It's about waking up. About realizing that respect isn't a favor people grant, it's a boundary you enforce by how you show up. That means catching those tiny moments when you shrink, when you say, "It's fine even though it's not," when you downplay your ideas or accept a role smaller than your potential. Each time you do that, you confirm the world's assumption that your comfort is negotiable. So ask yourself, what do I allow that quietly tells people I don't matter? Where do I give away my time, my energy, my voice without realizing it? The answers are uncomfortable, but they are the doorway out of the cycle. Because when you begin to treat your own emotions as valid, when you start honoring your needs instead of minimizing them, the world adjusts. People start noticing the shift even before you say a word. Your posture changes, your tone changes, your presence carries weight. And suddenly, those same people who used to talk over you begin to listen. This is not about arrogance or aggression. True self-respect has nothing to do with dominance, it has everything to do with clarity. It's the quiet power of someone who knows where they stand. You can be gentle and firm at the same time. You can be kind without being a doormat. You can say enough without shouting. Because self-respect doesn't require noise, it radiates through certainty. The mirror works both ways. When you begin to respect yourself, the world mirrors that too. You'll notice it in small ways at first. Someone pauses when you speak. Someone stops asking for favors they know you'll decline. These moments may seem minor, but they are proof that reality is recalibrating around your new boundaries. And the best part? You don't have to force anyone to respect you. Once you truly respect yourself, their respect becomes a natural response, not a negotiation. So here's the challenge. Stop asking, why don't people treat me better? And start asking, where have I treated myself as less? Stop waiting for others to notice your worth and start acting as if it's already undeniable. The reflection will follow. Because the world doesn't change when you shout louder, it changes when your inner voice stops whispering apologies. Look at your life like a mirror. Every conversation, every relationship, every disappointment is trying to show you something about how you see yourself. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe you deserve. So if you're tired of being invisible, stop disappearing on yourself. If you're tired of being dismissed, stop dismissing your own needs. And if you're tired of being disrespected, start practicing the kind of respect that doesn't need to be begged for. It starts in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when you choose not to betray yourself one more time. Because once you decide that your presence matters, something profound happens. The world finally agrees. You've probably spent most of your life trying to be the good one. The reliable coworker who never says no, the friend who always shows up, the partner who sacrifices sleep and sanity to keep everyone happy. You do what's expected, you meet deadlines, you listen, you help, you give, and still, somehow, people overlook you. You wonder, what else can I do? But that's the trap right there. The more you try to prove your worth, the more invisible you become. Because respect doesn't come from effort, it comes from authenticity. We grow up in a culture that worships approval. From a young age, we're rewarded for compliance, gold stars, good job, you're such a nice kid. It feels good, doesn't it? That hit of validation tells your brain, this is safety. But as adults, that same need becomes a prison. You start chasing compliments the way some people chase caffeine, you can't start your day without it. The moment someone praises you, you are on top of the world. The moment they criticize you, you collapse. You live at the mercy of other people's moods. That's not self-esteem. That's dependency wearing a polite smile. Carl Jung called this mask the persona, the social self we build to be accepted. It's not fake, it's a tool. Everyone wears one to function in society. But when you confuse the mask for your face, you lose yourself. You become a collection of other people's expectations. You're careful, agreeable, always fine. You think you're being kind, but what you're really doing is disappearing. Because when your identity depends on being liked, you stop being real, and people can sense it. They might not articulate it, but they feel something's off. They respect authenticity, even when it's messy, far more than they respect someone who's trying too hard to please. Think about how this plays out in daily life. At work, you say yes to another project even though you're exhausted. You stay late, hoping your boss notices. They don't. Instead, they assign you more. With friends, you listen for hours to their drama, but when you need to vent, the line goes dead. In relationships, you bend so far to keep peace that you forget what you even want. And then, when people take you for granted, you feel hurt, but you smile anyway, because you don't want to seem dramatic. Sound familiar? That's not generosity, that's self-abandonment dressed up as virtue. Here's the harsh truth, people can't respect someone who doesn't respect themselves. Not because they're cruel, but because subconsciously they take their cues from you. When you act like your needs are optional, others treat them as optional. When you constantly prove your worth, you're also communicating that you don't believe you have any by default. And so the cycle continues, trying harder, getting less. We often romanticize selflessness in American culture. We idolize the team player, the good mom, the supportive friend. But we rarely talk about the burnout that comes with it, the quiet resentment, the sleepless nights, the bitterness that builds when you keep giving from an empty tank. True generosity can only come from overflow, not depletion. You can't pour from a cup that's cracked at the bottom. So ask yourself this, when was the last time you did something just because it mattered to you, not because it impressed someone else, not because it earned gratitude, but because it aligned with your truth? Can you even remember? If your calendar is filled with commitments that don't feed your soul, that's not responsibility, that's servitude. You've confused acceptance with purpose. This need for validation often comes from old emotional scripts. Maybe you had a parent who only praised achievement. Maybe you learned early on that love had conditions: behave, perform, please. Those patterns stick. Even decades later, you still hear that inner voice whispering, "If I do more, they'll finally see me." But they never do, because no amount of external validation can fill the void of self-neglect. You can't outsource self-worth. The antidote isn't to swing to the opposite extreme and stop caring about others. It's to start caring about yourself as much as you care about others. That means setting standards, not just expectations. Standards for how you're treated, how you spend your time, and what kind of energy you allow near you. It means valuing your peace as much as you value other people's comfort. Think about someone you deeply respect. Maybe it's a leader, a friend, a mentor. Why do you respect them? Probably because they have boundaries. Because they don't over-explain or overcompensate. Because they stand for something, even if it's unpopular. Now flip that mirror back to yourself. What do you stand for? Do you know? Or have you spent so long adapting to others that you've forgotten? The path to self-respect isn't glamorous. It's 1,000 small moments where you stop betraying yourself. It's declining an invitation when you're tired, even if it disappoints someone. It's saying thank you, but no when your boss piles on extra work. It's admitting, "That hurt me," instead of pretending it didn't. Every time you choose truth over approval, you chip away at the chains that keep you small. But let's be honest, this shift feels terrifying at first. You'll feel guilt, even panic. You'll worry people will leave if you stop being the accommodating one. And some might. But the ones who stay are the ones who were meant to. The rest? They were just there for the version of you that said yes too often. When they go, grieve them, but don't chase them. They're making space for the life you're supposed to live. You don't need to prove your worth. You were born with it. You just need to stop negotiating it. The people who truly value you will never ask you to shrink. They will meet you at your full height. And when you finally stand there, no longer bending for approval, you'll realize something powerful: respect isn't earned by pleasing others. It's earned by refusing to betray yourself. So stop auditioning for a role you already own. Stop chasing applause from people who wouldn't notice if you fell silent. Start showing up as someone who knows they belong in the room, not because of what they give, but because of who they are. When you finally believe that, others will too. And that's when everything begins to change. You've been told your whole life that saying no is rude, selfish, or unkind. From childhood you were trained to be agreeable. Share your toys, don't argue, be nice. Then adulthood arrives and that same lesson becomes poison. You say yes to extra work because you don't want to seem lazy. You say yes to favors because you don't want to look cold. You say yes to family demands, social obligations, endless responsibilities, until one day you realize your yes has become a prison. Every yes that isn't honest is a tiny betrayal of yourself, and each one chips away at your energy, your time, your dignity. You think you're keeping peace, but what you're really keeping is everyone else's comfort at the expense of your own. And the irony? People don't even appreciate it. They just get used to it. They expect it. And when you finally say no, they act offended, like you've broken some unspoken contract. That's because, in a way, you have. You've changed the rules of a game they've been winning for years. But make no mistake, learning to say no is not cruelty. It's clarity. It's the line that separates exhaustion from respect. Saying no doesn't mean shutting everyone out or becoming heartless. It means you've decided that your time, your rest, and your peace have value. It means you're finally seeing yourself as someone worth protecting. Think about that word, protecting. We protect what we value, our homes, our money, our families. But when it comes to our emotional energy, we leave the door wide open. We let anyone walk in, rearrange the furniture, drain our resources, and we call it kindness. That's not kindness. That's surrender. Carl Jung wrote about individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are. He said it requires confrontation, not comfort. And one of the first confrontations you'll face is with your own guilt. Because when you start saying no, guilt shows up like a shadow. It whispers, "You're being mean." It tells you people will leave, that you'll be alone, that you're overreacting. That voice isn't truth, it's programming. It's the echo of every time you were rewarded for being quiet, punished for speaking up, or made to feel guilty for wanting something for yourself. That's not conscience. That's conditioning. So how do you break it? You start small. The next time someone asks for something you don't have the capacity to give, pause. Don't rush to fill the silence with an automatic yes. Breathe. Feel that discomfort. That's the sound of a new boundary being born. Then say it, calmly, clearly, without apology. "No, I can't do that right now." Or "That doesn't work for me." That's it. No essay-length explanation. No excuses. Just truth. Watch what happens. At first, people will push back. They'll test your limits, not out of malice, but out of habit. They're used to your compliance, and your new firmness feels like rebellion. Some will guilt trip you. Some will withdraw affection. Some will even accuse you of changing. And they'll be right, you are changing. You're evolving from someone who lives for approval to someone who lives from self-respect. That evolution will scare those who benefit from your lack of boundaries. But it will also inspire those who value you for who you are, not for what you do for them. Think about this, every time you say no to something that drains you, you are saying yes to something that heals you. You are saying yes to time, to peace, to creativity, to authenticity. You're saying yes to being fully alive instead of half present and resentful. That's not selfish, that's sacred. It's how you reclaim your energy from a world that's constantly trying to take it. And yes, it will feel lonely at first. When you stop overextending yourself, the silence will feel strange. You'll have free evenings, empty space on your calendar, moments when no one needs you. That silence might feel uncomfortable, but sit with it. That's where you meet yourself again. That's where you rediscover what you actually enjoy, what matters to you, what fills you up instead of empties you out. The people who truly belong in your life will respect that space. They'll adjust. The rest were only there for the free access. There's a saying, when you start to set boundaries, the first to be offended are the ones who benefited from your lack of them. Don't take their discomfort as proof you're doing something wrong. Take it as confirmation that you're doing something necessary. Growth always disrupts comfort, yours and theirs. But every time you say no and survive it, guilt loses power. Every time you hold your line and the world doesn't collapse, you get stronger. Eventually, no becomes natural. Not harsh, not cold, just honest. Self-respect isn't about shouting no at everyone. It's about knowing when to say yes with your whole heart and when to protect your peace without shame. It's about realizing that your energy is your responsibility. No one else will guard it for you. If you don't defend your limits, others will define them for you. And trust me, they will always set them where it benefits them most. Imagine this, you start your week and actually plan time for yourself, not as a reward, but as a right. You decline unnecessary meetings, you ignore manipulative texts, you let a call go to voicemail because you don't owe anyone instant access to your attention. You're not being rude, you're being real. You're living like someone who knows their time has worth. And that quiet strength will start radiating from you. People will feel it. They'll think twice before crossing lines they used to step over. Because you've stopped asking for respect, you've become it. So here's your challenge. This week, practice one courageous no. Just one. It can be small. Turn down an invitation, delegate a task, refuse a request that feels wrong. Notice how your body reacts. Feel the guilt, the fear, the freedom. That moment, that tiny spark, is the beginning of your power returning home. Because every boundary you set is a declaration that you exist, that you matter, that you have limits and they deserve to be honored. Respect doesn't start when others change. It starts when you do. It starts with that one brave word, no. And once you master it, you'll realize it was never about rejection. It was about direction. Every no you speak with integrity leads you closer to a life that feels like yours again. And that, my friend, is the real definition of self-love. Why do you keep tolerating what hurts you? Why do you stay in situations that drain your energy, in friendships that belittle you, in relationships where you walk on eggshells just to keep the peace? You tell yourself you're being patient, that people will change, that it's not worth the fight. But the truth is harsher, you're not patient. You're afraid. Afraid of conflict, of rejection, of being seen as difficult. Afraid of losing the approval you've built your identity around. What you call harmony is often just fear wearing a polite smile. Carl Jung had a word for this inner prison, the shadow. It's everything about yourself that you've buried because someone once told you it was too much, too loud, too emotional, too selfish. Maybe as a kid, when you spoke up, you were scolded. When you cried, you were mocked. When you showed anger, you were punished. So you learned to hide those emotions deep inside. You told yourself that being calm, agreeable, and nice was safer. But the parts you buried didn't disappear, they went underground. And now, those suppressed parts are running your life from the shadows. Your shadow is the reason you freeze instead of speaking up. It's why you smile when you want to scream. It's the whisper that says, better stay quiet, right before you let someone cross a line again. The shadow doesn't want to hurt you, it wants to protect you from rejection, from shame, from the pain of being misunderstood. But in protecting you from discomfort, it also traps you in a cycle of self-betrayal. You've built peace on top of repression, and that kind of peace never lasts. Think about it. How many times have you stayed silent in a meeting, even when you had the right answer? How many times have you apologized for something that wasn't your fault just to smooth things over? How many times have you swallowed your anger only to lie awake at night replaying the moment in your head, imagining what you should have said? That's your shadow talking. It doesn't shout, it manipulates. It tells you you're doing the right thing by staying small, that being invisible is safer than being authentic. But here's the paradox Jung pointed out: the more you repress something, the more power it gains. What you hide begins to control you. Repressed anger doesn't vanish, it becomes fatigue. Repressed truth doesn't dissolve, it becomes anxiety. Repressed self-worth doesn't die, it becomes dependency. You start living a life that looks calm on the surface but feels hollow underneath. You can't figure out why people don't respect you, yet you can't bring yourself to express the very emotions that would command respect. Facing the shadow means opening that basement door you've kept locked for years and turning on the light. You will see parts of yourself that make you uncomfortable, your jealousy, your resentment, your pride, your rage. But those parts aren't evil. They're just wounded. They were never meant to be erased, only integrated. Because the anger you repress is also your boundary keeper. The pride you bury is also your confidence. The part of you that wants to shout enough is the same part that protects your self-respect. Let me be clear, embracing your shadow doesn't mean becoming hostile or vengeful. It means allowing yourself to be whole. It means saying, yes, I can be kind and firm. I can forgive and still demand fairness. I can love and still say stop. That balance is what real maturity looks like. The world doesn't need another agreeable person who never rocks the boat. It needs people who are rooted, self-aware, and capable of saying, this is who I am, without flinching. Imagine this in real life: someone interrupts you for the 10th time in a meeting. Instead of shrinking, you calmly say, please let me finish. No anger, no apology, just clarity. That moment might seem small, but it's a declaration of self-respect. Or picture this: a friend keeps making jokes that cross the line. Instead of laughing awkwardly, you tell them, that's not funny to me. You don't need to explode to reclaim your power, you just need to stop pretending you're fine when you're not. Every time you do that, you pull another piece of yourself out of the shadows and back into the light. This work isn't easy. Your nervous system will fight it. You'll feel guilt, shame, even fear, because your body has been trained to equate submission with safety. But here's what Jung taught us: what you avoid doesn't disappear, it waits. The emotions you suppress don't die, they accumulate. Sooner or later, they demand release, through burnout, resentment, or illness. You can't outrun your shadow. The only way out is through. Start by being radically honest with yourself. Where are you pretending? Where are you performing calmness that you don't feel? Where are you saying yes when your body screams no? Write it down. Look at it without judgment. That's the beginning of integration, when you stop being afraid of your own truth. Because the parts of you that you fear the most are often the ones holding your strength hostage. There's a line from Jung that hits hard: one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. That's your task now, to make your darkness conscious. To take your anger out of the basement and teach it how to speak instead of explode. To take your fear and let it become caution instead of paralysis. To take your pain and let it become wisdom instead of self-pity. That's what transformation looks like, not perfection, but integration. And when you start living from that place, something profound happens. You no longer attract people who feed on your silence. You stop tolerating environments that shrink you. You stop confusing peace with submission. Because the moment you accept all of yourself, the light and the shadow, you stop begging others to accept you. You stop performing worthiness. You start embodying it. So the next time you feel disrespected, don't just ask, "Why did they do this to me?" Ask, "What part of me allowed it?" That question isn't about blame, it's about awakening. Because the disrespect you tolerate from others is often a reflection of the respect you're still withholding from yourself. The good news is, you can reclaim it. All of it. But to do that, you'll have to walk into your own darkness, look it in the eye, and say, "You're mine now." That's where your real power begins. Reclaiming your self-respect doesn't happen in a single, dramatic moment. It happens in small, almost invisible decisions that you make every day. The truth is, you don't rebuild your worth with words, you rebuild it with actions. With how you talk to yourself in the morning, how you respond when someone disrespects your time, how you prioritize your energy when life starts pulling you in every direction. Respect isn't demanded. It's practiced. It's earned one conscious choice at a time. Let's get real, the same habits that make you lose respect for yourself are the ones you repeat without thinking. You overextend, you apologize for existing, you justify your boundaries, you make other people's comfort more important than your peace. Changing that pattern doesn't mean waking up tomorrow as a different person. It means catching yourself in those tiny moments of self-betrayal and choosing differently. It means interrupting the reflex. You notice that voice in your head saying, "Just say yes, it's easier," and you stop. You breathe. You ask, "What would someone who respects themselves do right now?" That's your compass. Follow that answer, even when it's uncomfortable. Carl Jung said, "What you resist not only persists but grows." You've spent years resisting your own authority. You've played small so others could feel big. Now it's time to let that authority grow again. Not as arrogance, but as grounded confidence. Real self-respect doesn't shout. It doesn't need to prove itself. It moves quietly, calmly, like someone who knows their value. It's the energy of a person who no longer asks, "Am I enough?" but says, "This is who I am." That's the kind of presence that changes how people treat you without you having to say a word. Let's break this down into something tangible. Respect starts with how you treat your time. Look at your week. Where do you show up for everyone else but not for yourself? You'll never earn your own respect if you treat your personal time as disposable. Block it out. Protect it. Use it for what nourishes you: reading, rest, movement, reflection. Not as a luxury, but as maintenance. Because self-respect without self-care is just a slogan. Then there's how you communicate. Most people think respect comes from perfect words or clever comebacks. It doesn't. It comes from consistency. When you say what you mean and mean what you say, people learn to trust your word. They may not always like it, but they'll respect it. You don't need to explain your boundaries in an essay. No can be a complete sentence. That doesn't work for me is powerful enough. The moment you stop over-explaining, your energy shifts from pleading to leading. And let's talk about how you handle disrespect. You don't have to fight every battle. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. When someone crosses a line, you don't explode, you state your truth and withdraw your energy. Silence, when it comes from self-assurance, is more powerful than any argument. The goal isn't to dominate, it's to detach from anything that lowers your frequency. You teach people how to treat you by what you continue to allow. Another piece of rebuilding self-respect is who you keep around you. Look carefully at your circle. Do the people in your life uplift you or drain you? Do they celebrate your boundaries or guilt trip you for having them? Energy is contagious. If you surround yourself with people who take without giving, you'll start believing that's normal. It's not. Seek out those who match your growth, not those who resent it. Because when you start valuing yourself, you naturally outgrow environments built on your submission. That's not betrayal, it's evolution. But perhaps the most overlooked aspect of self-respect is discipline. We often think discipline is punishment, but it's actually self-loyalty in action. When you follow through on your own promises, whether it's exercising, saving money, finishing that project, you send a powerful message to your subconscious, I can trust myself. That's where confidence comes from. Not from compliments or achievements, but from the quiet knowing that when you say you'll do something, you actually do it. Every act of discipline is a brick in the foundation of your dignity. Now, here's something most people don't tell you: self-respect will cost you. It will cost you relationships that depend on your compliance. It will cost you comfort because growth never feels cozy. It will cost you the old version of yourself, the one who settled, apologized, and pretended. But what you gain in return is priceless: peace, clarity, and power. The moment you stop begging for validation and start living in alignment with your truth, the world around you starts rearranging. People who used to dismiss you begin to notice your presence. Opportunities that once passed you by suddenly find their way to you. That's not luck, that's energy. So how do you sustain this transformation? You practice respect the same way you practice anything meaningful, through repetition. You catch yourself slipping back into old patterns, and instead of judgment, you choose awareness. You remind yourself that progress isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. Every time you choose honesty over approval, silence over resentment, rest over overwork, you strengthen your inner authority. The world starts to mirror that. It's not magic, it's psychology. Remember this: the way you treat yourself teaches everyone around you what's acceptable. If you dismiss your needs, others will too. If you honor them, others will follow your lead. Self-respect doesn't start with grand declarations, it starts with small, firm choices that whisper, I matter. When you make those choices often enough, the whisper becomes a roar. So from this moment on, commit to living like someone whose life is worth protecting. Speak with intention. Rest without guilt. Set boundaries without apology. Keep your promises, to others, yes, but especially to yourself. Because once you rebuild that trust, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing respect. You start embodying it. And when you do, you realize the truth Jung hinted at all along: the outer world always mirrors the inner one. When you stand tall on the inside, the world can't help but rise to meet you. At some point, you have to stop waiting for people to change. Stop waiting for them to notice you, to apologize, to finally treat you the way you've always treated them. The truth is, most people won't suddenly wake up and realize your worth, especially if you keep showing them that you'll stay no matter how little they give. That realization is painful, but it's also the moment freedom begins. Because once you stop expecting respect from others and start generating it within yourself, everything changes. The real test of self-respect isn't how you act when you're surrounded by love and approval. It's how you act when you're alone. Most people fear that moment, the silence after you set a boundary, the emptiness that comes when the wrong people walk away. It feels like loss, but it's actually space. Space for peace. Space for authenticity. Space for people who see you for who you really are, not for who you pretended to be to keep the peace. We confuse loneliness with abandonment, but they're not the same. Loneliness is what you feel when you're disconnected from yourself. Solitude is what you feel when you finally reconnect. There's a big difference. Carl Jung believed that the goal of life wasn't happiness, it was wholeness. And wholeness means accepting every part of yourself, even the ones you once disowned. It means not needing anyone's permission to exist. That's what emotional independence looks like. You don't crumble when someone disapproves of you. You don't chase people to validate your choices. You don't shrink just to fit into rooms that can't hold your full presence. You walk with quiet confidence because you know that approval is nice, but self-respect is essential. Think about how much energy you've spent trying to be liked, editing your words, suppressing your opinions, saying yes when you wanted to say no. What if you redirected that same energy toward building a life that feels like home to you? Imagine waking up and realizing you no longer need to perform. You no longer shapeshift to fit someone's expectations. You're not running from rejection because you finally understand that rejection is just redirection. When someone walks away, it's not proof that you're unworthy, it's proof that you're finally stepping into alignment with who you were meant to be. This is what it means to be free, not to live without people, but to live without dependence. To choose relationships out of desire, not desperation. When you stop clinging to people who drain you, you discover something beautiful. You were never as fragile as you thought. The fear of being alone was just the fear of meeting yourself. And when you finally do meet yourself, when you sit in that quiet space without distractions, without noise, you realize that peace was never missing. It was just buried under the noise of trying to please everyone. Let's be honest, this journey isn't glamorous. It's messy. It's lonely sometimes. You'll question yourself. You'll feel guilt for saying no. You'll miss the comfort of the familiar, even when the familiar was toxic. But each time you choose authenticity over approval, you build a deeper kind of strength, the kind that no one can take away from you. It's not about becoming unbreakable, it's about becoming whole enough that breaking no longer scares you. Because even when everything falls apart, you know how to rebuild from within. Emotional independence doesn't mean you stop loving people. It means you stop losing yourself in them. You can still care, still connect, still build deep relationships, but now from a place of choice, not need. You no longer beg for affection because you've learned to generate warmth from your own fire. You no longer tolerate disrespect because you've learned to listen to your inner voice when it whispers, "This doesn't feel right." That's not arrogance, it's alignment. When you reach that point, your energy shifts. People can feel it. You walk into a room differently, not louder, not harder, but more grounded. You no longer chase opportunities, you attract them. You no longer argue for your value, you embody it. Respect stops being something you fight for, it becomes something you radiate. And here's the paradox, the moment you stop needing others to respect you, that's when they finally do. Because energy doesn't lie. The world mirrors back the way you carry yourself. So, if you're still clinging to relationships that make you feel small, if you're still fighting for validation that never comes, it's time to let go. Not in bitterness, but in understanding. Some people aren't meant to walk with you into your next chapter. Some environments can't sustain the person you're becoming. Don't mourn that, thank it. Thank it for teaching you what you will never tolerate again. Thank it for showing you where your boundaries begin. Because every ending that feels like loss is also an invitation to rise higher, to stand taller, to live freer. The truth is, the respect you seek has been waiting for you all along. Not in other people's hands, but in your own. Every time you honor your limits, you earn it. Every time you speak your truth, you strengthen it. Every time you choose peace over approval, you embody it. And once that respect becomes part of your inner foundation, life begins to unfold differently. The world bends toward those who know their worth. So here's the challenge I want to leave you with. From this day forward, stop waiting to be chosen. Stop waiting to be recognized, understood, or approved of. Choose yourself. Recognize yourself. Approve of yourself. Because when you do, You'll realize that everything you've been chasing, respect, love, freedom, was never missing. It was just waiting for you to stop running from your own reflection. And when you finally stand there, no longer afraid of solitude, no longer begging to be seen, something extraordinary happens. The noise quiets. The chaos fades. And for the first time, you hear the sound of your own voice, steady and strong, saying, "I am enough." That's not arrogance. That's truth. That's peace. That's the moment you stop surviving and start living. And that's where real respect begins, right there, within you. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this journey. I know your time is valuable. If this message spoke to you, if it gave you even one moment of clarity or peace, I'd be grateful if you'd let me know. A simple like, a comment with your thoughts, or subscribing to the channel helps this community grow, and it helps more people who might need these words to find them. Share your reflections below, I do read them. I'll see you in the next chapter. Until then, take care of your peace.